On Daysville, we'll see how Russia collapses. Why would Russia collapse? Well, you'll have to see. And the first thing that happens is, well, a reintroduced offensive, let's say. A Kiev offensive is started as, let's say, protesters during based on how long this war is dragging out. So they started a second attack towards Kiev, and within days are kicked out. And then a counteroffensive by Ukraine is done in the north and the south, as it capture parts of the northern area, and they move into the south, and they manage to capture the rest of Kherson, most of Zaporizhzhia. And after they start making their way into Crimea, as this happens, protests break out across the Russian government, with many minorities calling for independence. But once Crimea falls, everybody's out to get Vlad. And well, he is killed, murdered, assassinated. Vladimir Putin is no more. And with this leading to a new government, most likely extremists, and then, well, a Democratic Revolt will break out. Oh, so they call themselves Democratic, but really they're basically Russia. As they manage to take over northern parts and take St. Petersburg and move up into some minority areas, leading to themselves being called the true leader. Eventually they take Moscow, and the rest of this nation comes crumbling over to this. But it turns out quickly they're not the answer, what people are looking for. And it frustrates people. And the worst part is they just give up Crimea, which makes a lot of people in Russia really mad. This new government is not stable, and it came over badly. And this was a coup that was led during the murder. But a new extremist group led by another person, which decides to form the new Russian order, forms in a few of the major cities in Russia, and manages to take eastern lands. As this is happening, the first nation to declare their independence, Kaliningrad, does so, leading to an independent, free Kaliningrad. And in the Far East, they declare independence. And this is what their border kind of looks like. The Far East Russian Republic is what's formed here, with it not being legitimately declared according to this new government in charge, which is ran by extremism. Eventually, the Civil War, which is happening as Russia is collapsing in on itself, gets worse, with this government being very anti-Ukrainian and anti-minorities. Anything minority they don't like. Some minority regions decide to declare independence, including Karelia, which they then take some land, gain some coast north of St. Petersburg, and they also take all of what they're claiming to be. And another minority state full of minorities breaks free. This time it's New Estonia, or whatever they would call it. West Estonia, whatever. It's a new nation. With Russia starting to collapse in on itself, the collapsed nations form the United Front, united against tyranny, with their goal of capturing some major cities. But though both of these are not legitimately claimed, they're on this side, they form the new front, and they get joined by a new nation breaking free, which is Yakutsk. I think that's what it's called. No, Sakha Oblast, is it? One or the other. No, Republic. One of those declares independence, along with the weird name Tanyutupa. With, to no one's surprise, Chechnya is formed. And a few northern Caucasus places here unite. And this area forms South Ukraine. Why South Ukraine? Because, well, it has some Ukrainian minorities in it. And they declare their willingness to join Ukraine. And, well, I just realized these nations are, like, should be up to here. And, well, let's see what they look like. With the one willing to join Ukraine. Joining Ukraine officially 2 days after it declares its independence, it officially joins Ukraine. This being a big deal, because at this point that means Russia is collapsing. And these red nations are not at war with the blue nation. They're just independent, and they're together to secure their independence. With them seeing, their best bet is to move into St. Petersburg, which they do. Which is really big, considering. And then Yakutsk officially declares its independence, Osaka. And Tanituba declares independence. Well, then Russia unifies on the green team, the green nation. But with Ukraine being very against this new nation, they start a war as they invade into Russia. Why do they invade Russia? Because they believe this Russia will invade them and is a threat to their security. And so Ukraine moves up towards Moscow, and they take Rostov. I think it's over there, though they might already have it because that group unified. And they do this. They take Moscow, and they create a safe zone. And their goal in this area is to create a new Russian state. But one problem. The Southern Caucasus forms one nation. Northern Caucasus, they form this republic. The Republic of Caucasia, which has Volgorod, so it could be the Volgar Republic. And while another nation, which I think a lot of people call Tatarstan, decides their independence is what they desire. And now they're also part of the Red Coalition. Which looks bad for Russia, because this is what they look like. And then let's call it Siberia decides to create a nation. Why would I call it Siberia, even though Siberia is where Yakutsk and, Far East Russia is located, but because, that is Siberia, basically. And then around the mountain, what mountain is it? I forget it. Ural Mountains, another state is formed. All these nations work together with the joint goal of freeing Russia. So now let's fix up the borders a bit and see what they've done at this point. As you can see, that area, which probably wants to join Estonia and Latvia, one or the other, Kaliningrad has left, Galeria has left, they gained a bit of land, the Caucasus Mountain states leave, which includes Dagestan, Chechnya, and North Ossetia. That's what I'm going to call it. The Caucasus Republic, they lost. Yeah, this is Tatarstan, they lost. This is Uralstan. Yep, Uralstan. Now let's look at Siberia. Saka. And now this is Far East Russia. That is Tanituva. Ukraine has formed a Russian puppet out of this falling Russian, which is basically free Russia. And now they become imperial. And then here is what's left of the Russian rump state that was left after the war. And many nations would probably be happy about this. But one big problem would be India and China would lose a lot of their fuel impacts from Russia, which basically they get all their fuel from Russia, which would mean they lost most of this because it's hard to negotiate with these states. Maybe China would move in and make these two states puppets and that. Maybe the EU would move in and try to get these to join. And these are just the stands. Uralstan might join Kazakhstan because there is nothing better to do. But NATO would benefit off this because that would mean they only have one enemy to focus on, which would be China. And that's pretty much all for today's video. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Wild Mapper out, but not until you subscribe. Bye, guys!